I am Supreme, and today's Astro Oracle investigation will be on Tammy Lynn Leppert. Tammy Lynn Leppert was an 18-year-old American model and actress who mysteriously vanished from Cocoa Beach, Florida on July the 6th, 1983. Her disappearance remains one of Florida's most enduring cold cases. Shouts out to one of my subscribers and viewers, Cheyenne Owens. She is one of my top uh, suggesters, if that's even a word, but it's a word now. And thank you so much, Cheyenne, because you suggest a lot of content and a lot of interesting content as well. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all of my subscribers and viewers. So let's talk about Tammy Lynn Leppert's professional career before we get to her disappearance. A former beauty queen who won over 280 titles, crowns. She was a rising talent in the early 1980s, and she won all of these crowns before the age of 16. Film roles: she appeared in the 1983 film Spring Break and had a minor role in the classic film Scarface, where she played a blonde woman who distracts the character Manny. Modeling: she was a prolific model appearing on the cover of magazines such as CoverGirl. Now, weeks before she vanished, friends and family noticed a drastic change in her personality. Paranoia: Leppert became extremely fearful, claiming someone was trying to kill her. She refused to eat or drink anything she hadn't prepared herself. Now, there was a filming incident that took place. During the filming of Scarface, she reportedly had a psychological breakdown while watching a violent scene and was briefly hospitalized for evaluation. She allegedly told her mother she had seen something awful and expressed fear that it was related to money laundering or local drug activity. Let's talk about her disappearance. On the morning of July the 6th, 1983, she left her home in Rockledge with a male friend. Last known location: the friend reported that they got into a verbal argument and he dropped her off near the Glass Bank in Cocoa Beach. She was last seen wearing a blue flower print shirt and a denim skirt. She was reportedly barefoot and carried no identification or money. Now, that was all they spoke on of this case. However, this was a popular case. Tammy Lynn Leppert was very popular. Now, before I go any further, I want to write down some key energies that I want to look for in the charts. Of course, I went over her charts, but I'm going to also pull cards, which I have not done. The cards are going to elaborate on everything I've seen in the charts. It's going to tell the story. It's going to tell a story that no one can make up. And I'm going to do it right before your eyes because I am a high-ranking Astro Oracle psychic investigator, and you are about to witness a high-ranking Astro Oracle investigation on Tammy Lynn Leppert. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you will be notified when I drop my investigations. Now, I want to write down a sign that I attribute to all people that were last seen with a friend. Whenever I hear about some friend that's prominently involved in the victim's energy and disappearance, that's always Aquarius energy. Okay? So, of course, Aquarius energy is not limited to the friend because Aquarius is also a stranger. Also, Tammy Lynn Leppert herself is an Aquarius. So, this Aquarius energy is going to tell us a lot wherever it shows up at. So, let's pay attention to this energy. Also, I want to talk about money laundering because Tammy said she saw something awful that may pertain to money laundering and local drug activity. Let's go over money laundering right quick. What is money laundering? Okay, I'm going to give you the short version. Money laundering is the illegal process of making large amounts of money generated by criminal activity appear to have come from a legitimate source. The process cleans dirty money, like laundry, dirty clothes. That's why it's called money laundering. The process cleans dirty money to disguise its origin and allow criminals to use the funds within the legitimate financial system without detection. So keep that in mind as we go over these charts and pull cards as well. Okay? Now, of course, money laundering is a deceptive energy. Anything that has to do with deception, lies, concealment, hiding is Pisces energy. We're going to look at where Pisces shows up at. Okay? Concealment. All right? Now, turn these around so y'all can see them. All right. I'm going to go over what I think happened to Tammy. Aside from what I saw in the charts, and I don't know what cards are going to come out. All I know is I am tuned in to Tammy Leppert's energy. And I'm completely out of the way when I pull cards. So her energy is going to tell the story. Raw and uncut. Now, before I pull cards from my Astro Oracle, this is my OG, this is going to tell it all. Okay? Now, what I believe happened was that Tammy Lynn Leppert, of course, she was a rising star actress, model. You know, she had a lot of hold on, let me try to keep this down while I'm shuffling because these cards be going all over the place. I'm going to uncover that when I'm done shuffling. I just don't want them cards to fly everywhere while I'm shuffling. Tammy Lynn Leppert was exposed to a lot of mature public energies, frequencies, and vibrations throughout her childhood life and adult life. Okay? So she was in the limelight. I bet she saw a lot of things. I'm quite sure she did. A lot of what she did not want to see as well. I do believe she saw something awful that had to do with money laundering and local drug activity. But what scared her the most about it was that she realized that she works for crooks. She realized the entire entertainment industry that she was involved in is pretty much fraudulent. A lot of fraudulent activity. And it made her fear for her life. And I also feel like she was exposed to a lot of information, such as particular deaths of people and hostage situations that she could not speak on. These were people that knew the same thing she knew, that saw the same thing she saw. But these people got destroyed. And a lot of these people are held hostage. But see, there was something about Tammy Lynn Leppert that they was able to control. She was very naive. And all she wanted to do was be successful. Let the world see who she was and what she knew how to do and how glamorous she was. And she just lived in a dream world. Okay? I don't believe she wanted to be a crook. She just wanted to be famous. She wanted to be seen. But she realized she belonged to an industry that had the power to make her being seen under fraudulent situations and circumstances and agreements. And I believe she agreed to certain things as a part of her contracts. And there were information that made her fear for her family's life as well. So she tried her best to keep her mouth shut. But see, I do believe she went out with her friend that day. I don't believe they went to Cocoa Beach. It was said that they was going out to go buy a car, purchase a car. Tammy told her mother she'll be back. She's going with a friend. They're going to go look at some cars or whatever. And they ended up at Cocoa Beach. I don't believe any of that. But I do believe she was with a friend. And I do believe there was a confrontation. Now, a couple of days before Tammy disappeared, she already had an appointment to meet with a psychiatric evaluation, a counselor, because Tammy had been going through some episodes. Based on what she saw, it messed with her mental health. So she would spaz out frequently. Like on one episode, her and her brother, I believe it was her brother, or her friend, and I think this friend moved in with them. They grew up like sister and brother, but they weren't. And I believe this was the same person, but there was an episode where they were playing in the house outside. Now, mind you, Tammy already thought she was being followed and watched, even by neighbors. Now, her friend, they was running around in the yard, and her friend ran in the house and hurried up and shut the door behind him so Tammy wouldn't come in. They were playing. But see, Tammy, she really felt like she was being chased and watched. So she didn't find that to be funny or a joke. Do you know Tammy took a bat and she bust out the house window so she can get in? She spazzed out because she told him, "Why did you close the door on me? Open up the door." And he wouldn't. She went to go look for a bat that was in the yard and she bust out the windows at the house. Her brother, the friend, whoever, he came out the house and was like, "Yo, what are you doing? You tripping. It was only a game. It's only a joke." But Tammy was disturbed mentally and psychologically by whatever she was observing in this industry that she was involved in. She also pulled her friend aside one day while they was in the house and she told him, "Come here for a minute. Come look out the window." He came, they was in the living room looking across the street at the neighbor's house. She said, "Look across the street." She said, "Look what you see." And the boy was like, "What? I don't get it. That what, the neighbors brought a new car?" She was like, "Yup." She was like, "Okay." And the friend was like, "Okay, so what's the big deal?" She said, "Look at the windows of it was like a minivan or something like that. And the minivan's windows were like mirror tint. You couldn't see inside. When you looked at the car, all you see was your reflection. Mirror tint. So the friend was like, "Okay, it's mirror tinted." Tammy was like, "Exactly." So, I mean, the friend was like, "Okay, so what do you mean?" So Tammy was like, she felt like they were hiding something in that house. She felt like they were hiding bodies, kidnappings. They were doing things that they didn't want other people to see. What I believe Tammy was witnessing, when you go through trauma, Tammy did see something, not that day in the living room across the street. And it had nothing to do with the van with windows. But because of what she saw prior, because Tammy had went to a party like a while prior to her disappearance. And it was after that party that she came home and she was a different person. And her family had been trying to get out of her What did you see? What happened at the party? You changed since you came home from that party. And she never spoke on what she saw that day at that party. But whatever she saw, it changed her all the way up until she was never seen again. And to this day, her family still don't know what it was that she saw. What I believe happened was whatever she saw, it traumatized her whole psychological outlook on life. So whatever she looked at, she processed it through her trauma. So even what I believe she saw something that had to do with making her be afraid of a car with limo tinted mirror windows. Something that has to do with what you cannot see from the outside. Because she was exposed to some type of hidden activity that probably involved vehicles with these type of windows. Mind you, Tammy was a kid. She was still young. So, that's just like racism, for example. When you're young, and let's say, you're a black girl or a white girl, okay? Let's say, for instance, let's use Tammy as an example. And this is not a racial case. I'm using this as an example. Let's say Tammy is she is a white girl, young, and she is young. Now, let's say she was attacked by a black man or just a black woman, period. Black woman, a black man, just black, period, right? Say it was an attack because she was white. That's traumatizing. It's traumatizing to the point where every black person she sees is suspect to her energy, is a threat to her energy. Not because every black person did something to her, but because she's traumatized by what happened to her from a black person. That's how she looked at that car from her living room window, her neighbor's car, new car, that had nothing to do with being a threat to Tammy. She just was observing it from her trauma. I believe she looked at a lot of things from her trauma. This is why she never wanted to eat or drink, not unless she made it herself, because she also witnessed something that had to do with the poisoning of food, drugs. So that was what my intuition led me to believe. And then what happened was, I do believe there was a confrontation. They said the friend that she was with said that Tammy, he dropped her off, and she was barefoot, whatever. He still had her purse and her ID, but he put her out the car. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. What I believe is that there was a confrontation and Tammy tried to run. And because she was angry, he could not let her get away with what she saw, what she observed. Because I believe this friend knew what Tammy observed. I believe she confided in him. I believe he may have saw some of the same things too. And he could not let her get away with all that information, being angry like that. Because angry people with information and secrets, that's ammunition for them. So she had the power to expose a whole empire of hidden activity that will cause that empire to come tumbling down. And they could not let her get away with that. That's why they caught her and they did something to her. And we're going to find out what they did to Tammy Lynn Leppert. I'm going to pull 5 cards and it's going to tell the story of what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert. What happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert, who was born February the 5th, 1965, who disappeared July the 6th, 1983. What happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert, who disappeared July the 6th, 1983? What happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert in 5 cards? What happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert in 5 cards? This is what happened to Tammy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's talk about this. Now, a Virgo person came out with Virgo energy. This could be somebody that was working with Tammy, somebody she worked with, a co-worker, somebody in that industry, okay? Somebody that was helping her, okay? This is a Virgo person. Virgo is the energy of help, the helpmate, work, service, employment. Virgo is also health related. This could be a doctor, a healthcare provider, okay? Now, this Aries person came out in reverse. I read it the way it came out to me, okay? This Aries person in reverse could represent her, but this is somebody this Aries person that came out in reverse is somebody that she had an altercation with. Okay, this was a very confrontational individual because Aries energy is the energy of confrontation. Okay, this doesn't mean that this was an Aries actual person that was born in Aries season. They could be an Aries sun sign individual born late March, early April, but it's not limited to an Aries person. It's just a person with Aries energy, very confrontational energy, argumentative energy. Okay? So I believe this is the person she had an altercation with. But I don't think this is the person that killed her, though. But let's look at the charts. This Pisces thing in reverse is something that was hidden. Okay? This Pisces energy represents the hidden. And being that this is a toxic situation, this is something that she was hiding. Pisces energy is also the energy of drugs and alcoholism. Okay? This is also the energy of concealment. Okay? Like I was saying, concealment. This Pisces thing came out in reverse. Okay? Because it wasn't concealed once she found out what it was. So this Pisces thing in reverse came out because she knew about it. So, so it didn't prosper. Now, this third house person came out in reverse. Okay? This was foul play. So was this. This person and this person both represent foul play because they came out in reverse. Anytime a person comes out in reverse, this is a person that represents foul play. This third house person was who she was traveling with. This is somebody in her local environment, a neighbor. And even if it wasn't somebody she was traveling with, this is somebody she had a conversation with. Somebody that knew something about her. Somebody she was talking to. This third house person could also be a sibling because the third house is the house of siblings and neighbors. Whoever this is represents foul play because it came out in reverse. This 10th house place represents a public place. This could be Cocoa Beach. Okay. This could be some type of a public, this is some type of a government place, a government facility, because the 10th house is the house of public achievement and status, government buildings, courts. Okay. This is a public place. We're going to find out what this public place is once we pull the charts. Now, Tammy Lynn Leppert was born February the 5th, 1965. On that day, the sun was in Aquarius and the moon was in Pisces. And when you put an Aquarius, a Pisces moon in Aquarius's house, which is the 11th house, Taurus comes first. Taurus represents money and material possessions and security. This is Tammy's birth chart. And y'all know I can't look in the birth chart to determine whether she's missing or dead. But I can look in the birth chart to see the starting point of her disappearance and the starting point of her death if she is dead. So the starting point of a disappearance always is in the 12th house. And in the 12th house, look what we see. Aries. This person is the starting point of her disappearance. You can't make this up. I knew Aries was in the 12th house before I logged on and did the reading. What I did not know was that the Aries card was going to be pulled. This is why you can't make it up. This is the person right here responsible for her disappearance because it showed up in the 12th house of disappearance. That's why this person came out in reverse. Foul play. They did not take her where they told her they were going to take her. Okay? Now, the starting point that most likely led to her death, if she is dead, is Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius represents is a foreign energy. A foreigner was involved. Now, let's follow Mars because Mars rules Aries. Okay? Mars rules Aries, and Mars, the day of her disappearance, was in Cancer. But Mars in Tammy's chart, because this is Tammy's chart, we didn't pull her disappearance chart yet. Mars in Tammy's chart is in Virgo. Now, being that Mars is in Cancer the day she actually disappeared, because Aries is the energy of her disappearance, look where Cancer is at. The 3rd house. You can't make this up. Because this person came out also in the 3rd house in reverse. These are the cards that came out in reverse. There are 2 people that came out in reverse. These 2 people, I believe, is one person because it came out the starting point of her disappearance, and Mars rules Aries, which took us to Cancer, which is in the 3rd house, which is also this person. She went to this person's house. Now, Cancer is also the family member, the mother, the family, the home. So she could have went to this person's house who lives in that local environment. Now let's follow the moon because the moon rules Cancer. Where was the moon at that day? The moon was in Taurus, and Taurus comes first. This was about Tammy's money, her security. She was very famous. Taurus rules the 2nd house. This is a 2nd house chart because Taurus comes first. But if you look in the 2nd house of this chart, you will see Gemini. Gemini is the energy of local travels and communications. There was a meeting that was supposed to have been taking place that day. That's what triggered the confrontation with this individual at their house because this house is in Gemini. Gemini rules the 3rd house, but it's in the 2nd house because the 2nd house is the house of money and material possessions, which is what this meeting and social interaction was all about at this person's house, who Tammy met with foul play. Let's pull her disappearance chart. Tammy disappeared July the 6th, 1983. That day, the sun was in Cancer. This 3rd house person in reverse, their house, the sun was right here. And the moon was right here in Taurus. You cannot make this up because this is not even her disappearance chart. This is her birth chart. But the day she disappeared, the sun was right here and the moon was right here because she was at this person's house in her local environment discussing financial activities, her financial activities. When the sun is in Cancer and the moon is in Taurus, you put a Taurus moon in Cancer's house, which is the 4th house. When you put Taurus in the 4th house, look what comes first. Aquarius. This is the energy of the friend. This is also Tammy's energy because she was with her friend that day. And if you want to see if the friend has anything to do with the person that represents foul play. Look in the third house where you see Aries. Right there. This person, there was more than one person. Her friend, and this was a hidden person. She went to their house that day. She didn't know who this person was because it was hidden. She was seen with her friend. Her friend took her to somebody else's house, who is this person's house, in the local environment, because this person's house was in the local environment. Okay? This is where she went. And this is where the confrontation took place. Because Aries represents confrontation. This person in reverse represented foul play. Now, also, what I believe happened is I see Tammy's fear of being poisoned, her food. Why? Because look in the house of death the day Tammy disappeared. I see Virgo. Anytime Virgo shows up in the house of death, this is a death by medication, food poisoning, health issues, a co-worker. This is also a death that involves a work related death. This is also a health related death, a medication related death. Now, why does it have to be food? Because when you look in Virgo's house, which is the sixth house, Virgo's house, you see Cancer. The person's house, home, family, and the mother. And what are some activities that involve Cancer energy? Food, cooking, especially when it's in the house of health. This is fast food, but this is also home cooked meals. Look in Cancer's house, which is the fourth house. See Cancer's house. I see Taurus, the energy that came first in Tammy's chart. Taurus represents food, shelter, clothing, money, material resources, everything that keeps a person secure on this planet. When it's in the house of home and family, this is a home cooked meal that was responsible for her death. Do you see it? Mercury rules Virgo. Mercury that day was right here in Cancer. This is one of Mercury's houses, natural houses, right here in Cancer. And Tammy's Mercury is in Aquarius because Mercury represents travel. And she was traveling with her friend. They went to somebody else's house. And Tammy was most likely poisoned. That is where she died at. Because if you see, Tammy was with her friend publicly. She went to this person's house where she died. Look at the 10th house of the day she disappeared. You see Scorpio. Scorpio is the energy of death. Pluto rules Scorpio. Pluto is the planet of death. Where was Pluto at in Tammy's energy? Pluto was in Virgo, which is the energy that governs this health-related death. Tammy Lynn Leppert is dead, and she died because of a health-related incident that involved food, shelter, and home. Home. The 10th house is where she died at. The friend's place. You cannot make this up. She died at a friend's place. That's why this 10th house came out. Now, this Pisces thing that came out in reverse, where was Pisces at the day she disappeared? Right here in the second house of money. Remember that meeting that they had that day at the person's house that they was discussing the money that Tammy knew about was being concealed. The second house, Pisces. This concealment is the money laundering information, Gemini, that Tammy was trying to warn her folks about without warning them. She was trying to tell them without telling them. That money laundering drug activity was real. Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune that day was in Sagittarius, which is the energy that governs Tammy's death. So when the energy that day governs the victim's house of death and the death date, the day she disappeared, the health related energy of her disappearance was in the public eye, was ruled by the energy in the public eye, where she was last seen with this friend. Pluto, Scorpio, Pluto is in Virgo that day. That is how I know Tammy died of, they killed her. They killed her. And yes, she was what this came out. I'm looking for her body. Look what this came out. Sanitation and waste in the West. She didn't waste no time. I believe that because Virgo is also sanitation. Y'all know it. Every time Virgo shows up in the house of death in all my readings, what do I tell you that means? Another meaning for this is sanitation. A death by sanitation and waste. Her body was sanitation and waste in the West from where she was last seen. I don't live in Cocoa Beach, Florida. I don't know what is west of Cocoa Beach, but apparently that's where she was last seen. Whatever wasteland is west of Cocoa Beach is where Tammy's body was located. Of course, it's not there anymore, because that was 1983. This is January 30th, 2026. A whole 40-something years later. They're not going to find her body. And if they did find her body, they didn't say anything. But it was in sanitation and waste to the west of Cocoa Beach, from where she was last seen. Is there anybody alive today, Tammy Lynn Leppert, that knows what happened to you? Who? This is going to take us out right here. Who is alive today that knows exactly what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert? Who is alive today, January the 30th, 2026, that knows exactly what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert? Who is alive today, January 30th, 2026, that knows exactly what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert? This is who's alive today that knows exactly what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert. A stranger in the 10th house. Of course somebody's seen something. Of course. Because this is where it all happened. Of course. Of course. It could have been one of the neighbors. A stranger knows what happened. Of course. It's probably one of her neighbors that lives next to that friend. She was last seen with the friend. And the friend came first the day that she disappeared. So the friend came from the 10th house. This is a successful friend. That was a part of her success. So being that it came first, the day she disappeared, you got to also look in the 10th house, because that's going to connect the dot of what came from the 10th house the day she was born in her energy. How does her energy connect with the 10th house energy of the day she disappeared? Pluto that day was in Virgo, which is how she died. There's a stranger that knows. This stranger is in the 10th house. This was probably the stranger that took her body to the wasteland. This could have been the sanitation worker that was paid to make sure her body was destroyed. They paid him to keep his mouth shut, and he got his money and kept it moving. Or this is somebody that's seen exactly what happened and was told to keep their mouth shut. But this person is alive today. This person is alive today. This person is alive today. Yep. Because, yeah, this person is alive today. And you know what? This person is involved with that money laundering as well. This person is alive today. Yep, that person is alive today. That's my reading on Tammy Lynn Leppert. And I'm sticking to it. Y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. Y'all be blessed and rest in peace to Tammy Lynn Leppert.